Okay, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the medley from last week. I want to discuss an ornamentation in Amazing Grace, and that'll be on, I'll write that out on the new page at the bottom. But if you want to look at your old, the one I sent last week of Amazing Grace AG, where we have the that part right there, wherever that occurs, you can do a nice sounding little roll. What I mean is I'm talking about the notes in the parentheses, the 2 and the 3. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick the 2 and pull off, and then play the 3. And then I'm going to hammer back on to the 2 for the next measure. So we have the 2, 3, 2. Let me put it in context so you can hear it. 1, 2. Once again, I'm looking at the notes in the parentheses. On the first 2, we're doing a pull-off, picking the 3, and then hammering on the 2 of the next measure from the open string, like this. And so what we end up with is okay, it's a very nice ornamentation, very folky guitar sound there that kind of dresses it up a little bit. You could even save that for if you were going to play the song twice through. You could do it, one time the regular way, and then the second time the other way. So that happens in the first line, first measure, second line, first measure, and fourth line, first measure. So I'll go ahead and play it from the beginning so you can hear it in all 3 of those instances. 1, 2, 3. Okay, sounds nice, right? So I just wanted to offer that ornamentation to you. Now what I'm going to do is I mentioned last time that I would just go ahead and do a play along, transitioning from the Be Thou My Vision to the Amazing Grace and back to Be Thou My Vision, so you have that as a play along. I assume you use these play alongs. If you don't, tell me, and maybe I won't do them, but I'm just assuming that you do them. So what I'm going to do, just so you know, is I'm looking at the Be Now My Vision, the latest version where it goes from to the C chord. Okay, so what I'm going to do is when I get to the end of the 4th line, I'm going to transition into Amazing Grace. When I get to the end of Amazing Grace, 1, 2, 3, 4th line down, 3rd measure, where we have that 3 on the C chord, where just the song kind of ends there, and then we have that turnaround written in if you were going to repeat. I'm not going to do the turnaround. Once I get to that, the 3rd measure of the 4th line, and I hit that final C note, I'm just going to play a couple of C strums, and then I'm going to go, like it says at the bottom, D if going back to Be Thou My Vision. And I'll play 3 beats of D. And then I'll go back to here we go. From Be Thou My Vision into Amazing Grace, back to Be Thou My Vision. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, now I'm going to do that again as a play along without any talking. So I think you got the idea of the arrangement that I'm going to use to connect the two songs. Okay, so this time I'm just going to play it as a play along, and I'm going to do the exact same thing that I just did, hoping that you were able to notate, make any notes if you needed them to get from one to the other. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so there you go. Then of course, if you were going to, depending on what you were going to do, if you were going to end it there, and you wanted to add one of the interludes as a tag on the end. You can use use that as a tag on the end. Okie dokie? Okay, so much for that. Now, maybe I should just leave it at that. Let's see, let's talk just a little bit more about, I know this is short, but I don't know that I want to get into something entirely new at this point. Let you work on this a little bit more. Let's talk just about some minor things. Looking once again at the Being on My Vision, the newer. This one here. Okay, just a simple point. When we get to that D, just throwing in a little fill there. To bring us to that C. Okay, that would be the only thing that I would add to that at this point. When you get to that D at the end of the second line. Or whatever you want to do, just throw something in there just to kind of fill that up. Looking back at Amazing Grace, I don't think I have anything to add to that. So like I said, it's a little brief, but we'll leave it at that. Give you a little bit more time to work on these two songs and put the medley together. I'll just review the ornamentation again. So what we're doing is we're at the first measure, where the 2-3 is in parentheses, we're going to pull off on the 2 and then hammer, pick the 3 and then hammer back on the 2. You could even just practice that. Just a pointer on the hammer-on. Sometimes people tend to do hammer-ons too quick. You want to give it some space. Okay, and it's also important to have, a good hand position there so that you're coming into the string, bam, with that knuckle bent right there, so you kind of really can hammer into it. And also a reminder on when you're doing the first 2, when you're doing the pull off, remember that when we do a pull off, we actually want to come down and actually try to pick the string. You don't want to just lift up. You actually want to try to pick the string there. And then when you're doing the hammer on, really hammer into it. Pull down, and then hammer on. Because you want there to be equal strength through all those notes, even though you're not picking some of the notes. You want them to have equal volume, and that's the way that you achieve that, by actually pulling down and then when you hammer on, just hammering on with some force. So like I said, if you feel like you're having a little trouble getting that to sound clean, just do an exercise with that. This way, as it crops up in the song, you're not having to overthink it. So when, that appears 3 times, so you want to be able to just go through that motion without really having to think about it, okay? Okay, I'm going to leave it at that for now, and we'll look at another arrangement next week. Have a good one. Any questions? Just ask.